Joining us now to talk more about this case, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. When you look at a murder trial, you don't have a body, now you've got a defendant saying, I'm going to defend myself. How difficult is that in a murder trial to defend one's self without a lawyer?
Both things difficult. Difficult for the prosecutor, solicitor in this case, to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt without having a body. I mean, folks want that physical evidence. They want the guns. They want knives. They want the body, right? And if you don't have that, you start to creep into there that reasonable doubt. And if you get one to believe that they have doubt, that's how you get a mistrial. That's how you get a hung jury. And so that is going to be a problem for the prosecution. But on the other side, with the defense, yes, it's extremely problematic. I mean, a man that represents himself represents a fool, is what the old saying is. And so I would not recommend anyone to do that. I remember when I was in the administrative court here in Mecklenburg County, folks would come in and say, hey, you're charged with DWI. You want to represent yourself, or you want an attorney? And they'd always be like, oh, I can represent myself. And I'd slow down and be like, well, are you sure? You know, I'd say, look, have you been to law school? And, you know, have you ever had a toothache before? And they'd say, yeah. I say, well, did you go to the dentist or did you pull it yourself? And they say, oh, I went to the dentist. But you're going to go here and do this toothache going against this other person that's went to school forever. You may want to make a decision. They'd always come back and say, you know what, let me get an attorney. In this situation, this didn't happen overnight. This individual, him and his attorney, have probably butt heads for a number of times. That relationship, it's like a marriage. That divorce at some point happens, and now it's happening in the middle of this trial.
Khalif, when somebody is representing themselves, they haven't gone to law school, obviously there are some legalese that most people don't know, but you can find yourself in very hot water really quickly because there are procedural things that people may not know about.
Yes.
You can get evidence thrown out. You can get things you can say that can incriminate yourself. What are some things that he may not be thinking about?
Not just get evidence thrown out. You may not be able to get evidence thrown in. For you to be able to get evidence to put into trial, you need to know the rules of evidence. Specifically, you have to figure out how to get them admitted. To get them admitted, you got to be able to lay a foundation. If you can't lay the foundation for how it should get in, then it's not even coming in. And so I'll take it back to my judge in Michigan. Judge Bowman said this, had an individual that wanted to represent himself, and he said, look, there's no JV version of this trial. This is varsity. So you're going to either come up here and be able to play, and I'm going to hold you to the same rules as the starters, giving them the best analogy that I've ever heard. And he said, if you understand that I'm not going to give you some different set of rules. I have to treat you just like an attorney. I can't give you assistance. I can't call a timeout for you if you're in the middle of something and you're confused, and I'm going to have you have to know the rules of evidence just like anyone else. If you understand that, then let's go ahead and go forward. The guy went forward, and it was a train wreck, just like you would anticipate, because I still struggle with the rules of evidence, and I've been doing this for a long time, recognizing that before I go to trial, I'm looking at all the rules to make sure I can figure out how to get things in, how to object properly. Well, you're missing things if you don't even know what you're looking for.
So I know you're not sitting next to this defendant in jail as they're trying to teach themselves how to be an attorney. I don't know what skills he had in law before this. I mean, what are you assuming that someone like this is doing? Are they physically like just Googling? I'm being serious. If you don't have any expertise in this area, are you going to a jail library and getting books and Googling, how do I defend myself? What do I say? What is the legal verbiage I use to at least try to hang in the same game?
I will say this: when I first started practicing, I would be confused and surprised with the amount of information that defendants would send, because they have more time than I do. Even if I know the law, they have 24 hours a day. They may have access to the law library for 7-8 hours, where I'm managing and juggling multiple cases. So I would put that portion first. But even if this person came into the situation as a practicing attorney, then gets charged with a crime, I still wouldn't recommend that person represent themselves. A person with a law degree, having years of criminal experience. Why? Because your vision is skewed. Your perspective is not in the right place, because you're not looking at the facts from an objective position. You're looking at like, I don't want to go to prison, that I know I didn't do this. And because you're skewed by that, you will miss things, and you won't have the ability to see things as they actually really are coming at you. So that's the first thing I say. The second thing is they do have time. And so I have seen some really, really fine crafted motions. I've seen some things that were like, wow, was this drafted by someone that was, clerking for a U.S. Court of Appeals judge? But I can tell you that a lot of times they miss the mark. Folks that are in jail trying to prep to represent themselves will make a better situation by just sitting there, listening, advising, giving information, prepping with your attorney, and allowing them to go forward and fight the fight for you.
Okay, again, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes, breaking that down for us. Khalif, thank you.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.